The short answer is yes, but it depends on the situation. It depends on the type of race that you're doing, whether it's shorter or longer. So we're going to get into that. But first, if we're going to look at talent, we have to kind of define it and understand what it is that we're looking for. For distance runners, probably the best proxy for natural talent is going to be how fast your open 400 meter speed is. However fast you can do that is usually a pretty good indicator of like your natural like anaerobic talent, like speed ability. And when it comes to distance running, there's the two primary systems. There's the aerobic system, there's the anaerobic system. Your talent is largely based upon your anaerobic system. Your speed, your talent is something that you're born with, like what capacity it is, how big or small it is largely genetic. You're just kind of born with that, so thank your mom and dad. And when you're untrained, that cup is half full of water. That's your anaerobic capacity. You can train it up to a point where that cup is actually full and actually at its capacity. And at that point, that's like your kind of your ceiling. So like if you just did speed training to fill that cup, get your anaerobic system maxed out, that's what it would be. That's kind of your cap. You can only improve it up to a certain point. I don't know how many of us actually train to a point to get it absolutely 100% full. On the other end is the aerobic system. And that, on the other hand, like let's say instead of getting oxygen, you were using a spoon to get it in there. So everyone is largely born with the same size like spoon. But the difference with the spoon is that you can increase its capacity by training it. So while the cup, your anaerobic system, can be filled up but is fixed at a max capacity, the aerobic system is not limited like that. If you train, that like spoon can get bigger. Your ability to pour oxygen into your system can get better and better over time. Like theoretically, we could keep improving the aerobic system forever, but it usually aging usually catches up with us. That's why over long distances like the marathon, you'll see like older people be able to be really competitive compared to like shorter events. Like there's not a lot of like sprinters in their mid-30s who are still at their peak, but on the marathon there might be. Because in racing, usually the longer the race is, like the more you can make up for a lack of talent, a lack of anaerobic capacity that you were born with, the more that the work that you put in can make up for that deficit. It's going to be less likely that you pull like a random person off the street and you can train them up to be really, really good at the 100, but you'll have higher odds of picking a random runner and like putting them onto like a good training plan and be able to have them have success in like the marathon. You see it's a common trend with like runners, especially at the higher levels. Like if they don't have enough talent or they're getting too old to handle the like anaerobic, the speed, the talent requirements of the shorter races, like 400, 800 mile, that's when people start to move up. You don't really see people moving down distances as they get older or as like they enter more competitive arenas. It's like you'll see maybe someone who could run a pretty good mile in high school has to move up and make the 5K the focus, or the 10K the focus if they go to college. The longer the race, the more that the work that you're able to put in has a larger and larger impact, because that aerobic system doesn't really have that same ceiling that the anaerobic system does. So like the question you have to ask yourself is like, what is your level of talent? If you can be honest with yourself and say maybe it's not that much, that doesn't necessarily mean that you're like doomed to failure. That just means that you might have to jump up to a higher distance if you want to see more success. And again, it's up to you. It's whatever your personal preference is. Maybe you just enjoy doing some shorter things, even if you might be better at the longer things. but you have to understand like the dynamics at play, the fact that you can have more like influence over your success over longer and longer distances than you would as you go shorter. And one thing to keep in mind is if you are someone who has some natural talent, to fall into what I would call the talent trap. And this is something that I may have found myself in if it weren't for some like outside circumstances. Was I was lucky to be blessed with some pretty good talent in like high school, and my 400 was like 54 seconds, so I was pretty quick over that 400. That indicator of talent was pretty high. So I was talented, but I wasn't like a total superstar. Like I wasn't one of these like high school freshmen running like 4:15 for the mile or anything like that. Just really good, but not quite like great, like prodigy status. But to me, I didn't care. Like I had the results that were like really, really good. I surpassed all of my own expectations in high school from 8th grade. And I was just kind of riding that wave. Like I was just doing what I like was told to do. You know, I'd go to practice, I'd do what the coach says, but nothing more. I was not taking any sort of extra steps on my own. I just kind of thought, you know, I'll just basically do not really the bare minimum, but you know, I thought I'll kind of just stick to just whatever's happening at practice, kind of the bare minimum I could get away with while like showing up and like being on the varsity team, but nothing more than that. And like results were good. Like freshman year, I ran 4:30 in the mile, ran 9:58 for 2 miles. By sophomore year, I was running under 16 minutes for 5K, and I was going back and forth with being the number one runner on my team with another one of my teammates. Like he was ahead of me most of the year, but like I got in front of him a few times. In particular at the state meet, that was probably the best meet of my year. I broke 16 minutes in the 5K for the first time. I was our number one runner. I was 5th place at state. Like I was riding super high, especially like this was crazy. I didn't expect to be able to be like this by my sophomore year. And so I'd gone back and forth with this teammate being the number one, finished the year off ahead of him, and then we go into winter track training. And at that point, like our coach didn't go to practice, so we were kind of just on our own. I would still go every day. I was running Monday through Friday, or at least going to practice Monday through Friday. And I was just going to do the same thing I did last year, where we show up and we goof around. We maybe run 20 or 30 minutes a day. You spend most of that time just like looking for like cool trash in the alleys and bringing like Christmas trees back to school or like a bunch of weird stuff. Meanwhile, that teammate of mine was running like 80 miles a week. And I thought he was crazy just running that much, because you know, up to that point, like he had been running this high volume, like 70 miles a week or so. And I'd been kind of just doing whatever we did at practice, nothing more. He was doing a bunch of stuff on his own and just really getting after it. But the results so far had me and him pretty close together. So I thought, I'll just kind of ride off of this kind of bare minimum amount of work and the talent that I have. That'll be enough to be competitive with him in the spring. Like I don't need to do all this work. I'm just gonna enjoy my winter of goofing off and just expected to keep seeing the same results that spring. But that's not what happened. After that winter, he was running really fast. He ran 4:17 for a mile, 9:10 for 3,200. He was runner-up at state. He placed pretty high in his heat at the Arcadia Invitational in California. He was, at that point, like pre-Super Shoe, 9:10 was ranked pretty high nationally. He was getting interest from schools. And then, meanwhile, I barely improved from the year before. It was just little incremental improvements. And like a PR is still a PR. I was like happy enough about that, but yeah, I wasn't having the success that my teammate was having. Like we went from neck and neck with each other to him blowing my doors off. And that was kind of like the kick in the ass moment for me, was realizing that, okay, if I want to take this next step, I actually have to put some serious work in. And from that point forward, like that's what I did. Like I recognized the importance of, like, at practice, like I'm there every day doing what I was doing, but I'm adding on beforehand. I'm doing doubles in the afternoon. I'm making sure I'm taking care of my sleep, all that stuff. So I was fortunate to have my teammate there to kind of give me that shot in the arm, like an example of what could happen if I did actually put some work in and wasn't just relying on the talent that I had. Because without him there, I think I might have just kept like skating along, like doing that bare minimum, like enjoying the success that I did have with like the natural talent that I had, but not being able to push myself further, not being able to actually realize the potential that I did have. And I've seen it before with other athletes, like people that I've been on the team with or in college or like coaching now, that some people, like, there's some natural talent there and it's enough to kind of get by to where you're running pretty good, but there's kind of a complacency that develops where you become all right with running pretty good and never make that leap to being able to run great. And like there are people who I think could have been great but were only good because they didn't want to put the work in. And sometimes you just want to like kick them, like you could be so good if you just put the work in. Like I know you're good already, but you could be so much better. So you want to have the self-awareness to not fall into that trap. Like if you are talented, you have to realize that like it is a blessing to have, but it's not enough if you want to be great. You know, there was a quote from a movie that we always watched up at running camp. It was about the 1980 hockey Olympic team, but it was...
Think you can win on talent alone? Gentlemen, you don't have enough talent to win on talent alone.
And that's kind of the message that I guess I'm trying to send, is like talent is great, but if you want to be really, really good, it's not enough. Like if you look at the pros, like the guys running the world championships, like these guys are talented. Like the world championship 5K that just happened, like Cole Hawker is definitely very talented, but there's no way that he's not working really hard either. And same thing with any of those guys. Like talent is great, but the hard work is just like amplifies that so much. And even if you're not talented, like putting in some crazy work, it can sometimes just work wonders. Like some of my high school teammates, like there were guys who were 1 year just kind of there, like they were on the JV squad. They didn't do all that much running wise. They're good to have on the team, but they just weren't running all that fast. But some of those guys just got motivated and put in tons of work and went from like middling JV guys 1 year to guys who are like qualifying for state on the track side the next year, which like in Arizona is top 24 in the entire division. So they go from not making our varsity team to making state in track, which is very difficult to do. That is a huge jump. And these are guys who are not all that talented. Like they're not, like they'd be probably lucky to break us 460 seconds. And like I've seen that so many times. Like one teammate in particular, like I met him when I was in 8th grade, he was in 7th grade. I was just impressed that he could run the warm-up lap around the school without walking. I was lapping him in races that year, but he just stuck to it and ran basically every day, and then each year running more and more each day, to a point where he went from the little chubby kid who was getting lapped by me in middle school to the teammate who's right on my ass at the state championship, on the podium, and then going on his own next year and dominating and running super fast. He ran 2 miles in 9:07. He's got our school record still. Like I don't know if I saw him. He might have barely broken 60 in the 400 if he ever ran it. But again, that's not crazy. It's not like these guys running low 50s like I was. Like, you can do a lot if you're willing to put that work in, even if you're not talented. And if you are, don't let that distract you. Don't get complacent. Use that to your advantage and actually reach your potential. So you're never going to know your potential until you try. So that's my message for you today. And if you like some help reaching your potential, I've got some resources for you. Check the link in the description.